Okay, guys, there it's probably coming on there, but we can look at number 1 and then 2 to F is there. G is still come, or I must still move it up, then you'll be able to mark G. So just take a look there, please. Let me know if you have any questions. I think it was quite straightforward, these questions, most of them. We just didn't discuss linear versus non-linear, so we'll talk about that now. That comes into play with 2G. Any questions on 1? All fine. Okay, I'm just going to move up. Okay, there is all of number 2 and then number 3 as well. Now, guys, when they're asking about linear and non-linear, a linear graph or a linear function is one that literally is a straight line. Okay, so as soon as it's a curve, it's non-linear. So that was the question for 2G. Sorry that we didn't speak about that before. All right, so any kind of curve, any graph that curves, that's not an exactly straight line, like one that you literally draw using a ruler, that will be non-linear. Then for 3A, they asked which one of the 3 graphs, the 3 functions, is a linear one, which one is non-linear, and which one is constant. Guys, you remember we did discuss the constant thing yesterday, right? That is if you just have the same value all the time. So that was for cell S. It was just a straight line, which I do agree is linear, but it's a constant linear one. Okay, it had the same value all the time. Regardless of how many minutes you use or phone, I can't remember what that was, you will pay, I think, 100 Rand. Okay, so that's a constant one. The other one that was just a straight line is the linear one, that was cell P, and then the one that curved, all right, that was actually an exponential graph, which you will do in later years, that was cell O. Okay, just let me know if you need me to answer or if you have any questions on those. I'm just busy getting a note here. Okay, guys, that is the new heading, the Cartesian plane. You can just write that down, please. Yeah. Or like end of the year, 15th of December. But usually towards the end of the year, they say like you don't have to come to school anymore. Okay, the Cartesian plane. What's up? Okay. Has any of you heard this name before, the Cartesian plane? Anything about? Okay, the Cartesian plane is basically The set of the two axes that we have, the x and the y axis together, we call those two axes together the Cartesian plane. All right, so you can just take a ruler and draw a vertical line. Doesn't matter how far down, it's fine. And then you can draw a horizontal line that is cutting that vertical one. So I think my vertical line is a bit skew, but yeah, doesn't really matter, it's fine. Now guys, we have discussed, or I have used the words y-axis and x-axis already. We spoke about it a bit yesterday. The horizontal one, the flat one, is the x-axis. So now from now on, when you are drawing a Cartesian plane, I want you always to label the x-axis with an x next to that arrow, please. The other one, the vertical one, is the y-axis. So let's label that one as y. Now guys, what these two axes actually are, we have used them, all right, for the graphs that we did homework on. But these axes, these lines are actually number lines. Okay, so the x-axis is actually a number line. And there in the middle, where the y-axis goes through the x-axis, that is where 0 would be. All right, so what we do here is we always draw a big 0, I suppose a circle, it doesn't really matter, around that point. That is indicating that that point is 0 on the x-axis, or on this number line, and it is actually also 0 on the y-axis. The y-axis is a vertical number line. Okay, we never work with number lines going vertically up, but it is actually what it is. All right, so the x-axis, what do we have on the left-hand side of 0, guys? If you're just thinking in terms of numbers, you have 0. On the left-hand side, you have negative numbers. Hey, so we will have negative x values on this side. On the right-hand side of 0, you have positive values. Okay, so if you want, you can make little notches there. Don't worry about measuring them out. Just kind of eyeball it. All right, that's probably not perfect, but yeah, it's fine. Doesn't matter if you have more or less than mine, it's okay. Let's number them like we would on a normal number line. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have more, you would carry on numbering them. If you have less, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. And on the left-hand side of 0, we would have negative numbers. So let's label those notches as negative numbers. Okay, so the x-axis is just a normal number line, as we have been working with before. The y-axis is also a number line, but it's a vertical one. Now, guys, above 0, above 0, we're going to have positive values, and below 0, we're going to have negative values. Okay, I think that makes sense. All right, so let's make some notches here again. You can use the lines in your book, or I'm just doing like half a line. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to number the ones at the top or above 0 as positive values, and the ones below 0 as negative values. Don't worry about having the same scale on the two axes. Okay, we're just discussing what's happening here. Okay, are we okay so far? Two number lines that meet, that cross. Where they cross, it's 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. Now, guys, if I plot a point over here, don't do it yet on yours. All right, if I put a point there, and now I want to tell you what the position of that point is. All right, we are going to be working with points a lot. I'm going to give you some exercises and so on working with points. A point on the Cartesian plane is called an ordered pair. Let's write that on the side here. A point on the Cartesian plane Now, guys, if you're looking at where my point is, okay, you didn't draw it yet. Do we see that my point is in line with, it's above 1 on the x-axis, on my x number line? Do you see that? That's what I wanted to do. I don't know if it's exactly perfectly above it. Okay, it's supposed to be. So this point is directly above 1 on the x-axis. But then it is also right next to 2 on the y-axis, right? Have you guys worked with grids before where you've had to give coordinates and so on in geography? It's the same kind of thing, hey? If I now want to label this point, I have to write down in line with, I was going to say alongside, but it's actually in line with which x value and which y value can I find this point. But it is called an ordered pair because you have to state the x value first and then the y value. Okay, that's very important. That's why they call it an ordered pair. You have to work with a specific order. Okay, so we call it coordinates literally, which is what you have probably have called it in other subjects as well. The coordinates of a point must always be written in the form, and we're going to have to write it like this, guys. I'll explain all of that now. You have to use brackets. So you open your bracket, you write the x value of that point. In line with which x value is that point, you write that number down. Then you use a semicolon to separate the x value from the next one. Then you write down the y value that is directly next to that point. And then you close your brackets. Okay, please highlight that, underline it, do something to make it very clear. You have to write it in this form always. If you leave your brackets out, you're going to lose a mark. If your coordinates are in the wrong order, you're going to get 0. Okay, it's very important to remember that when we are writing down the coordinates of a point, you always write x first and then y. But guys, that is the same as in the alphabet. Okay, x does come before y. Yes.
Kind of like
okay.
9 over 10 something. Or you can just about x on z.
No, if you go into maths at varsity, then you do work with the z axis, but it doesn't come up even in grade 12 AP. We don't actually do the z axis, but there is such a thing. Yes. Okay. Guys, it's very important, very important. Now, please, on your graph, I'm sure that you all have a 1 on your x-axis and a 2 on your y-axis. Please plot a point that is above 1 and next to 2 at the same time. Okay? Now we're going to label that point next to it. You can write it above, below. I usually just write it next to it. We always have to label whichever point we are plotting with that point's coordinates. What is the x value of that point? It is in line with 1, so the x value is 1. What is the y value of this point? It's right next to 2, so the y value is 2. Okay. We're going to plot some other points now. I'm going to list them here. Okay, that is one that we're going to plot. Hopefully you have -3 on your y-axis. Okay, they can give you coordinates and they can ask you to draw that point in on your Cartesian plane. We need to remember, this is an ordered pair. So the coordinates will always be given in the correct order, which is first your x value and then your y value. So this point A has to be in line with -1 on the x-axis. So let's go to the x-axis. Let's find -1. It's over there, right? -1 on the x-axis. And at the same time, it has to be in line with -3 on the y-axis. So it has to be in line with -1 on the x-axis, -3 on the y-axis. So then just plot that point there. So that it's underneath -1, but next to -3. Okay. Now, I'm not going to write the coordinates on this side now because I don't like writing over my axis. I'm just going to see if I can pull it in here. And let's also just put an A there because that is point A. Any questions so far? I know this is new. It's a bit strange. We haven't done stuff like this before. Okay, but we just need to practice this and then it should be easier. We can also do point B, which let's do the point 2, 0. It's an ordered pair, meaning that the first number is the X value and the second number is the Y value. Always. Okay, they won't swap them around to trick you. They're not allowed to do that. Okay, it always has to be first X, then Y. So go to 2 on the X-axis. Here is my X-axis. Remember the X-axis is this horizontal one. 2 is over there. But now it has to be in line with 0 on the Y-axis. Where is 0 on the Y-axis? Here, hey, where the two axes cross. So guys, this point is actually here. It's on that axis. The X value is 2 and the Y value is 0. Okay, let's write B 2, 0 somewhere next to that point, above, below, as long as you can see that it is referring to that point. 2, 0, yes. So it's 2 on the X-axis, but 0 on the Y. All right, I'm going to do one last one with you guys, and then I'm going to give you an exercise to do on your own. Let's do -2 and 3. Again, it's in a specific order always. So the X value of this point is -2 and the Y value is 3. So let's go to -2 on the X-axis. 0 is here, there's -1, there's -2. But now this point also has to be in line with 3 on the Y-axis. So 1, 2, 3. There where the two values kind of meet, right? So you're going to plot your point over there. It's fine if it's not perfectly in line with those values, right? But just try your best. So it is directly above -2, but also directly next to 3. Okay, so C is the point -2, 3. Okay, guys, that is what you're going to be practicing for homework, plotting more points. I'll show you quickly. I see Ms. Kiava actually hasn't posted the note to Google Classroom, so I will do that. I don't know if she still wants to change it or something.